going to talk about scorecards today, and I'm sure most of you recognise these. The top two here are standard scorecards showing targets and percentage change and everything like that, which is great, and they're really quick to create as well. But with the custom scorecard, which you can see an example of down here, that's a little bit different in that you can pick yourself exactly what appears on the scorecard. So I'm going to go ahead and start creating one of them just now. So I will turn edit mode off and click on add other item and pick the scorecard as you normally would. And then we're going to pick our table, and I'm going to pick two fairly standard or very simple columns. So just a sales value that has a target attached and a cost figure which also has a target. And with these two we can change whether we're looking at them monthly or quarterly or yearly or whatever you would like, but I'm going to stick with monthly. And as you can see, the custom design tab up here is disabled at the moment. So to enable that, we want to go to the custom user designed option down here. And as you can see, our scorecard becomes empty, and we can now choose the custom design. And in this view, there are lots of values that we can pick from, and these are all well, I guess you could call them calculations that Target Dashboards performs on your behalf when you pick them. So what we will do is we'll start simple and add this month's value, or May's value, that's the last value I have in the data. And we can select to show the target as well, and how far we are above or below our target. And that's pretty standard. You can do that in any scorecard without ticking any boxes. So let's show previous month as well, and how we're doing month on month. And this is where we get to the more interesting options. So we can now add a year to date, which calculates your year-to-date figures and displays them. So this would be figures as from January till May, which is what I have here. But if I had my financial year set up to be different, for example, here in the UK, a lot of companies work around a financial year that starts in April, then the scorecard would take that into account. And you can obviously also show year-to-date target and how you're doing against your year-to-date target, which is the percentage of your full year-to-date figure of your full year-to-date target. And you can show previous year-to-date and what the difference is in performance between the two year-to-dates. And as you can see, the scorecard here is getting quite long, but I'm going to keep adding. What you could also do is you could add your full year target. Some of our customers, for example, add their target column for the whole year in advance. So they have the whole year's target set out month by month in advance. And you could then add and choose to show your full year target and how you were doing against your full year target. So what percentage you'd achieved, and it would color code red or green based on whether you were on track. So if you've met the year-to-date target. Now I don't have full year targets in this data, unfortunately, but it would look the same as these, the target, year-to-date target and the percentage on year-to-date, except it would show the full year target. And we can also choose to show the same month last year. So that would be May last year in this case. And we could show how much we've improved or declined in performance in comparison. And if we prefer, for some of our figures here, if we prefer to show an actual figure as opposed to a percentage, we could show a delta instead of a percentage change. And one of the calculations that's quite new and that many of you have been requesting is a run rate or a forecast, a yearly forecast. So what this option does, I'm going to add it, it takes the performance so far in the year and extrapolates that and gives you an estimate of where you might end up at the end of the year if you continued performing as you had in the months that passed. So that's, I know, is quite useful for financial figures and also for sales figures, for example, but it could be used in many different ways. The only thing that it might not work with, or that it will not work with, is something like a percentage or an average or something that calculates a bit more dynamically than just adding up, because you don't generally want to add up a percentage, which is what this would do. It would add up the percentage for each month of the year and then calculate the year-end figure based on that, which would give you a very inaccurate figure. But if you have more straightforward figures like sales figures, or you're doing quantities of something, then the run rate will work absolutely fine. So another thing to note when you've got your custom scorecard is that this box to make previous show last year instead of last month or last week or last day, it's greyed out, and that's because you have the option in the custom design to add both last month, previous month and last year as well, should you want to. So there's no need to have this option in here. So I'm going to give my scorecard, oh excuse me, almost sneezed. I'm going to give my scorecard a title, and I'm going to add it to my dashboard. And as you can see, it's very cramped in here. It doesn't get very much space, and you get a scroll bar and it looks a bit squashed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it to a spot, if my computer will cooperate, on the dashboard, there we go, where it will get a bit. So this is our scorecard that we've added, and if you wanted to, you could add all of the, I think it's 19 fields that you could add. It might look a little cramped depending on how big your monitor is, but there's nothing stopping you from doing that. And apart from with the run rate, for everything else, you can use any column type you wish and any calculation that you would like. So if you're using percentages or averages or NPS scores or anything like that, the scorecard will work absolutely fine. And it's just doing all these calculations for you, because all you need is quite simple data, which I'm going to show you now by going to my data and into our sales data. Now, this table looks a bit complicated because I've added lots of calculated column to it, but we're actually only using two of these columns. We're using the column for sales value here, which is very straightforward and has a target, and we're using cost of acquisition, which is here, and it's also got a target. And that's all you need in your data for this custom scorecard to work. And with data, simple numerical data like that, you can add any of the 19 options to your scorecard. And if your data is a little bit more complex, we could, for example, go into our scorecard and go to the filter option, and we could add a filter to our scorecard row. So I'm just going to add Fred at the end here and click finished. And this scorecard row will now only show Fred's values. And we can do the same with this one. I'm picking Fred because he's on top here. So let's see. So now our scorecard looks somewhat different because it's filtered by Fred. And we could actually add another column in here which doesn't have targets associated with it. So if we do this column here called clicks, you'll see that where there is a target field, it's blank. I know there's an exception for this one at the moment, but that will be blank as well by this time next week. And as you can see here, the table that I've used here doesn't actually have any categories in it, so you wouldn't be able to filter that. And if you wanted to be even more advanced with your filters, you could add a dashboard filter as well. So if you have a filter on your whole dashboard, you could tell the scorecard to use that. We don't have a dashboard filter on this dashboard, but it would work exactly the same as it does with charts and with gauges and table summaries and everything else. So if you're normally using filters on those things, you shouldn't have a problem doing it here either. So let's update this and see what we get. So that's our scorecard there. And you could obviously add as many rows to it as you like. You might want to make your dashboard items a little bit higher so they take up a bit more space to avoid the scroll bar if you have a lot of items in your scorecard, or if you're happy having a scroll bar on the side of it, then that's fine too. And that is really how you create a custom scorecard. So to recap, you turn edit mode off and you go to add other item to add a scorecard, and then you need to remember to switch it over from the drop down menu, which I'll show you again. So that it says custom scorecard in this menu down here, and then you can go to custom design and put whatever you like in here. And something that I forgot to mention while I was in here the last time is that any of the metrics that you add, you can drag and drop to change the order, or you can click to select it and use the arrows. So it really is a custom design that you can use, so you can control the order completely in here. So I know I might have gone a little fast, so if anyone have any questions at all, ask away.